Today's episode of the GoldCast is sponsored by just football. Football is crazy. This season is already nuts. It is, without question, not at all what we expected. I don't think anyone predicted what it has been so far. We are 3-0. We're going to talk all about it once we get into the episode, but just football, effing football. Any given Sunday, Raymond, my goodness, it is just crazy. Every time you think you kind of know what's going to happen in this sport, everything swerves and you realize you don't know anything. It's impossible to predict, and here we are. And before we get started, Raymond, why don't you let them know where can they find us?
You can like us on Facebook.com/TheGoldCast, and you can also follow us on Twitter at @_Goldcast. And you can also subscribe to us via iTunes, YouTube, and Stitcher, all under the same moniker of The Goldcast. Like, subscribe, and comment, because we love to discuss football with you.
Yes. Here we go. Week 3 is in the books. And lo and behold, we have 2 3-0 teams left in the NFC West. One we don't care about. The other one is the one that this show is dedicated to. Our beautiful 49ers. 3-0. Raymond, I can barely believe it. Here we are. But first, before we get into it, the greatest podcast intro in the game. The greatest fanalist is here. Your professor of fanalism is here. Class is in session. Let's go.
San Francisco, are you ready? This is the GoldCast.
Boom! Welcome to another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis the First, baby.
Boom! Okay, Ray. Here we are. 3-0.
Undefeated.
And here's the tough part. I want to be so excited about this, but I can't. Because today's win was so terrible. This was a horribly played game by the 49ers. Regardless, 49ers win 24-20 in just classic end of fourth quarter antics, classic 49er fashion, come back from behind, win a game we have no business winning. This was a classic, dirty 49ers win. But I can't be excited fully because we just played so poorly. But on the flip side, Ray, I also don't feel like this is one of those games that reveals that we're a bad team. I actually think we're a really good team. I don't know if it was being on the road for 2 weeks, being on the East Coast, maybe getting a little cocky after last week's win. I'm not sure. I think there was a couple of mitigating factors that really played into this. But this game, to me, it made me feel like it's not that the Steelers were good or that we're a bad team. We just kind of shot ourselves in the foot, and really we put ourselves in position to lose this game. What are your thoughts? How do you feel? I know let's talk about everything. Being 3-0, this is great. What are your feelings now about the 49ers after today?
I think there's still a young team that is trying to polish the Kyle Shanahan system. And that's because this is the first time that Jimmy G has played, with majority of the starting roster and the pieces that we believe are, can take us to the next level. And everyone's virtually healthy. And so I think that combined with some home jitters, I think perhaps everyone was, everyone had a really heavy emphasis on trying to show out today because it was the first home game and we won two games already, and we won those games with stellar play on both sides of the ball. Not all of it was perfect, and so they really wanted to kind of come out on this home opener and also make a statement, and it didn't quite work out that way. especially in the first, 2-3 possessions for us. And it was all on offense. And the defense, I think, has a little bit of an easier time because although you could make the argument if they were playing sloppy that, I would make the same argument for them because it's like, hey, they haven't been healthy, and so now they're actually able to play together as a starting roster. But I think now it's just like the healthy guys who have been there just know what to do. Everyone's kind of knows knows where they're supposed to be now, and more importantly, we have pressure up front that can really help alleviates a lot of pressure off of the secondary, and so those two go hand in hand. But overall, I mean, I'm still extraordinarily pleased with the win because it exposed vulnerabilities that we have, things that we need to clean up, but it also, much like the Tampa Bay game, at least the first, the early going of it, showed that the Niners have a lot of perseverance in their defensive unit. And where last year we were losing games to the defense, where the offense was kind of carrying the heavy load, putting points on the board, giving us a lead, and then the defense was unable to hold them by a lack of pressure, a lack of turnover, a lack of a little bit of everything. And now all of that fortune has shifted in the opposite direction. Last year we had 7 takeaways all season long. This year we have, through just 3 games, 7 takeaways, 5 of those being picks. And we've gotten 32 points from all those turnovers. And that's second in the NFL in that particular statistic. So the fortunes have shifted dramatically. And even though the offense had a lot of jitters and just like miscues and timing today, they still were able to get out with the win. And to me, it does, I know there's some people that are like worried, like, oh gosh, I'm worried about the offensive line, or I'm worried about, the Jimmy G, or I'm just not sure about, the offense or whatever. Everyone's going to be just fine. Everyone's going to be just fine. I think that we should all be excited. Because here's the thing. We've won 3 games. We've put up 96 points, which is, I think, second best in the entire NFC, next to Dallas Cowboys that have, one more point than we have. We've put up 96 points. They put up 97. And so, we're the second best offense, by that margin. And here's the thing, we played a sloppy game and still won against a really good defensive team, but a team that was also very, very vulnerable on the offensive side of the football. Mason Rudolph was horrible under pressure. That was very evident. And that's what you have to do with rookies like that. It's not like Jimmy G. Jimmy G makes mistakes under pressure just like any other quarterback does, but he also makes a lot less mistakes than a rookie does because he's been there and he's not afraid to take a hit. He likes to stand in the pocket and make those throws because he believes in himself, and that shows. He was able to get a winning drive and a winning touchdown. The only touchdown on his stat sheet today was the winning touchdown. So that says a lot, and I think that there's a lot to look forward to because the team can only get better based on their current trajectory.
I agree with that. 100%. I totally agree with that. We are young. You're seeing the ups and downs. You're seeing, them work through the inconsistencies. It's just the one thing, which I kind of mentioned at the beginning, that it just for me, it taints the 3-0. Does that make sense? It taints it for me. I wanted it to be an ass whooping like it was last week. I wanted to see this team come out and dominate the way they should have. And so it was frustrating for me to see them, I guess, to your credit, to Yes Andrew, go through these growing pains and go through these things that I guess foolishly, and I'm probably not the only 49ers fan that is saying this, there's a part of me that expects every week now to be like last week if we're going against a weaker team. But that's not how the NFL works. This team is still very young. They're still trying to find their footing offensively. Defensively, this team is really gelling, and offensively, we're still not quite there. And this was a game where you really saw an offense that was out of sync. But you're right. Come from behind wins are important, and they're really hard to do in the NFL. And not a lot of teams can do them. And it does show a level of perseverance, especially for Jimmy G. These are the reps, right? These are the reps. These are the reps that this quarterback needs to gain to embody the level that we know he's capable of. These are the reps he needs, right? So the fact that we persevered, we didn't lose, we won in the final seconds, that we kept pushing, it shows a lot, because this is a team that offensively would have just died last year. It would have been over. It would have been done. And so I agree with you, but do you understand what I'm saying about how it kind of taints it though? I can't fully be excited. Does that make sense?
A little bit. I don't think I fully share that sentiment, which is why I presented my argument, because I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the growing pains. I'm like, all right, they're only just going to get better. A win's a win, and I guess I kind of adopt the mindset that they exhibit in the post game press conferences, which is like, hey, we got the W. That's all that matters. Tomorrow we're going to go to work and start to focus on the areas which we which we can improve upon, after watching the tape. And I'm like, perfect. That's what you should do. But one of the reasons why I feel that way is like, because we're the fourth best rushing offense in the NFL. We're middle of the road passing in terms of yards per game, but we are the fourth best total offense in the entire NFL. I was like, so despite the miscues with timing, the snap, not handling the snap correctly, not snapping the ball on time, and then also costly fumbles, despite all of that, we're still fourth best in the league. And which is why we're also 3-0. If you might be making these mistakes, but you're also making more positive plays than you are negative plays, and if it's enough to get you the win, then you've got to feel pretty pleased about where things can go from here, because we've seen games where everything comes together. We've seen the 41-17 pounding. We've seen the 31-17 where a game maybe starts a little shaky, but then really gets dominated in the second half. And then we've seen the third type of game where it starts off really rocky, where it's where both teams are kind of exchanging blows, and it's a low scoring game, and then it really kind of comes down to the wire. So we've seen all three of those games now. Now needs to come, and it's been the first 3 weeks of the season, which is always the most, inconsistent weeks, unless you're like a very polished team with a very, where everyone kind of knows what they're doing, because, you're working with a very polished system where a lot of the pieces have been in place for many years, like the Patriots. Patriots are very polished. They come out of the gate looking like they're, their week 10 version of themselves. Whereas a team like the Niners, that's coming off of 2 seasons where they had, nearly 40 guys gone, unavailable. Only Ahkello Witherspoon was the only injury this week, or this game, and some kind of foot injury that's going to get an MRI tomorrow, so we'll know the severity of it. There was no other details given today. That's all we know. We know he didn't play the rest of the game when he got carted off, but then he also came back and was on the sidelines. So hopefully it's not a big deal, because we definitely need him. He's been playing almost lights out. Almost. He got beat hard by Juju Smith-Schuster today, but then K'Wan Williams helped make up some of his mistakes in previous games with the pick today, so that was good to see. But I mean, statistically, we're still top 5 in the NFL, and that's even evident on the defensive side. Defensive side, we're second best total defense in the NFL, second best, and running, I think we're 7th best, and passing we're like 8th best. So, we're top 5 and top 10 positions is where you need to be in order to, be in the hunt later on in the season. So the Niners just need to clean up some of this other stuff, like these pre-snap miscues, like not snapping the ball on time. Jimmy's got to handle the snap better, things like that. Those will get cleaned up. And then Raheem Mostert, they kept giving him the ball to say, like, hey, we're going to give you another shot here, instead of, they could have easily just benched him and really shot his confidence. But he's a good player for the most part, and he led the team in rushing today. 79 yards, 6.6 average. We're one of the best rushing teams in the entire league. So, and because we're able to do that so effectively, it allows Jimmy G's, passing facilitation to be that much more better, because we can run pre-snap movement, we can run play action pass, we can do rollouts and all kinds of. Kyle Juszczyk had a huge first half of this game. He was amazing. Not only was he terrific blocking, as he always is, but he was also great catching the ball today. that amazing stiff arm on Minka Fitzpatrick.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah,
He
that was
literally
huge.
threw him across the
Yes,
field with one arm.
One arm.
It was so dope. It was
And
so
it was
dope.
great because Minka Fitzpatrick, you got to give credit to the Steelers. They got a huge pick from Miami. It cost them a first-round pick, but it paid dividends immediately with an interception and a forced fumble. This guy single-handedly caused 2 turnovers for that team after coming to a brand new team with a brand new defensive system. So, but that was a great kind of, like, hey, you're not just gonna get one over on us to come here and start creating havoc with your new team. You're gonna also learn what it's like to play against one of the best, offenses in the league.
Totally. I get that. And you're right. Like, as you're sitting there explaining all this and, stating your argument, I'm listening. I'm thinking back to the 2011 49ers when Harbaugh first showed up. And that was obviously that was a completely different situation. That team was fully formed, actually much closer to the Sean McVay situation with the Rams. But either way, 2011 wasn't pretty, right? They kept winning, but it wasn't always pretty, and there was a lot of different ways that they won, and they were still establishing their identity, still establishing what worked for them. And 2011 was a lot less polished than 2012 and 2013, right?
Yeah, the passing game struggled a lot in the Harbaugh system. He didn't have it was a power running scheme, and he leaned on that quite a bit to keep the offense chugging. Whereas we kind of use it as we like to have it. We like balance, just like Jim Harbaugh likes balance. But it's very important to the Kyle Shanahan system based on how he runs the very intricate pass plays that he draws up, which is far above and beyond anything that Greg Roman ever came up with.
100%. Not only that, but kind of going back to that, it wasn't fully formed, but regardless, it had been so long. I remember it had been so long since we had been good that I was just pumped. I was pumped every week. I was nervous every week, but I was pumped. And I think there's a little bit of that happening here. And you're right. Like, I've got to remember that this is a team that is still trying to form and find its way. And we're not there yet. We're not. But either way, like you said, you're right. A W is a W is a W. Now, here's another thing that you and I are a little bit at odds with. I'm really happy that the bye is this week. I wasn't when the schedule was originally released. I was like, really? Week 4? Are you serious? But I think after these first 3 games and, kind of the ups and downs and the roller coaster ride that we've just been on, I actually think this is the best spot for the bye. But you don't. So tell me why you don't.
Because the first quarter of the season is really about establishing a rhythm with the scheme that you've chosen to commit to. And with the team really starting to kind of build momentum into, refining the scheme and mastering the scheme, I think that this bye is somewhat disruptive, especially since majority of the teams in the NFL don't have this early bye. They have week 10, week 11, week 8. A late mid-season and beyond is where all of the buys should be scheduled in this sport, not week 3. Week 3, it's like you're trying to get through the first 4 games of the season because of the reasons I already stated, because you're really trying to get a rhythm of the new season with the new players on your team and the new schedule of opponents and their new players and their new schemes. Everyone's trying to get acclimated to the new. There's a 4-week, 1 month period where all the teams are getting acclimated to the new season because of how physical the sport is, and that's within those first 4 games. And to have that disrupted on after the third game, to me, just doesn't make any sense. I mean, maybe they did it on purpose because we've had so many injury problems that they thought maybe an early bye would be more beneficial to us to help us keep pace, with the physical demands of football. I don't know what the thinking was, but it doesn't seem like. It seems like everyone has accepted it, but if they could have it their way, Kyle Shanahan wouldn't have it this early. That's the impression I get anyways.
I think that's fair. I totally think that's fair. But here's the flip side. I think just looking at how wonky today's game was, this bye, to me, this is the perfect spot for it. because now it's like, okay, let's slow down. Let's take a breath. Let's regroup and let's prepare. Let's have a couple weeks and prepare for the Browns, because the Browns are going to be our first real test this season. This is the first one. And then right after that is the ultimate test. It's the Rams. It's the ultimate. That is.
Wait. What makes you think Cleveland's a bigger test than any of our other opponents so far?
Up to this point?
I mean, Bengals, I can see that. I think they're more talented than Cincinnati. You know, they're obviously in the same division. Cincinnati hasn't won a game. You know, Tampa Bay has the same record as Cleveland, although Cleveland has a bit more talent. Although, you know, Tampa's, you could probably make arguments for that. But I want to hear your take.
Because I feel like the Browns are in a similar position that we are. They're a team that is forming. They have a really great, on paper, they have a great offense that's still trying to find their footing. They have a pretty good defense that is fairly solidified, that's very solid. And I think that this is a team that is at a similar level with us. Pittsburgh has been decimated. You know, they again, great defense, but this is a team that was not on the same level. That I feel like with all the injuries and all of the upheaval and the change, they're just in a whole different spot right now. And like you said, the Bengals are a mess. They're a mess. Tampa Bay, that's all.
They're kind of whatever.
Yeah, they're kind of whatever. But the Browns have a pretty good offense. They have a pretty good solid core there, and this is a team.
But they're younger than us. I mean, some of their players are, you know, from the same draft classes as some of our players. But I think the quarterback position, the coach, that's all brand new. So you know, where we have 3 years of this, you know, new regime that we're trying to establish, they're on, you know, game 4. Or they just concluded game 3 and are moving on to game 4 against us.
Yeah, but I think that with wide receivers like OBJ and Jarvis Landry, they have that veteran leadership. They have that veteran experience at an extremely
They definitely have some heavy hitters there. Those are 2 Pro Bowl wide receivers they've got.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes a difference. Now, they still haven't been able to capitalize on it because they're young. But I think this team, in a lot of ways, is in a similar boat to us. And that's what I like about the challenge. That's why I think this is a great team to face after the bye, because they're not that far off from us. They're trying to do the same thing we're trying to do. They're trying to level up. They made a lot of moves in the offseason to improve this team, and they're trying to level up. I agree. I think our quarterback is better. I think our coach is better. I don't think our wide receivers are better, but I think that those 2 pieces are more important. But having said that, I just think it's the biggest and best challenge that we will have faced up to this point. And I think after kind of having the up and down ride of the first 3 weeks, regardless, even though they're all wins and that's great, it was up and down, you know, a little inconsistent. I think having these 2 weeks to just stop and go, let's analyze the first 3 weeks. Let's see what we did right, see what we did wrong. Let's regroup and prepare for the rest of the season. I think it's, as much as I didn't really like this at first, I'm actually pretty okay with it. I'm like, this is a great time. We stop right here, because next up is the Browns, and then after that is the Rams. And there is a really strong chance that game is for the NFC West, the first real battle for this division. And I just think it's it couldn't come at a better time. You know?
Yeah, and the Rams narrowly got by Cleveland.
And that says a lot. It says a lot. I was watching this game very closely. Let's talk about this for a second. I was watching that game really closely because I wanted to see where the Rams were, and I wanted to see where the Browns were, because I know that the Browns are coming up next. And I thought they showed a lot of fortitude, a lot of perseverance, a lot of potential. They were a tough out. And you also started to see a little bit of the cracks in the wall of the Rams empire, so to speak. For lack of a better term, I would hardly call this an empire. I'd call it a flash in the pan. But you know, you started to see a little bit of the kinks, and I've compared this Rams run to the Harbaugh era a lot. I think they have a lot in common. You know, the Sean McVay, Jim Harbaugh inherited these really good teams, both of which went to the Super Bowl in the second year, both of which lost. And I do believe that this year they remind me a lot of the 2013 49ers. I think that they're still really good, but I think that you're seeing where the ceiling is here. And it's a lot more obvious than it appeared last year, especially with Jared Goff. And I thought the same thing.
I was going to say, yeah, their ceiling is definitely, if you wanted to know who was creating that ceiling for the Rams, it is definitely Jared Goff.
Yes, 100%, which we discussed before the season.
Yes. Yeah, they're bottom 10 in passing this year in offense. They're 16th in total yards. They're still top 10 in a rushing team because Todd Gurley's great and Malcolm Brown is good too. And they're still a top 10 offense. They put up a lot of points, but we put up more points than them. We're number 5 in the league. We're, again, like I said earlier, we're number 4 in total yards. Passing, we're middle of the road. We're 15th, but we're better than them. They're 22nd. And rushing, we're the 4th best rushing offense in the league. We average 175 yards a game right now. And I think it's tough because Mostert and Breida and the zone running scheme, caters to multiple different running styles and multiple different looks. That's just really, really hard to stop because it's very dynamic. It's very unique. It's very different from what the other teams are doing. So, and I think, the Rams game is based on, a good offensive line and a very talented back, mainly one back versus our committee running back system. And that's evident in the stats. When you look at stats, it's very clear. Raheem Mostert, 75 yards. Matt Breida, 68. That's very, very even. Jeff Wilson, who continues to be the go-to back for red zone offense, scored 2 touchdowns again. So this is great. We kind of have a role for all of our backs. Even though Jeff Wilson, to me, it's like I don't think of him as like the go-to back for like power running in the red zone, but for whatever reason, Kyle Shanahan believes it, and it's gotten us 4 scores. So, I can't argue with that, with the results.
No, not at all. And yes, I agree with everything you're saying. Let's talk about the Rams a little bit because they've looked pretty rocky these first 3 games out. Now, I mean,
Jared Goff is really bad under the pressure, and so I feel like when he has time to throw, he's a Pro Bowl quarterback.
But that's every quarterback, right?
Well, not every quarterback is Pro Bowl caliber, but I think Jared Goff has a lot of good weapons around him. He has a running back that can catch just as well as any receiver on the team, which is, standard now for if you want to be a top NFL team. Your running back's got to be able to catch too. And they have that. They have a great offensive line, although, this year things haven't been as smooth and their running game's still decent. Although even though Todd Gurley's great, he does not look 100% this year.
No.
And I'm not sure what it is, but he does not look like his normal self. And that might hurt them down the stretch if indeed he's not 100% and he keeps getting the workload that he's getting. So it might, come back to bite him. We know that without Todd Gurley, this Rams offense is a vastly different from how they like to operate. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But Goff, I think, unlike Jimmy G has made bad throws under pressure, but he also, there's a poise about him where he's willing to sit there and take the hit to try to make the throw, especially if he reads the blitz. If he reads the blitz on the right side, he wants to throw to the right because there's a free man on that side. Jared Goff has a slightly longer delivery, and so in the face of pressure, that kind of thing can hurt him. And we've seen that. We've seen him make bad throws. I think he had like 2 picks today, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't look all that great against this team. The defense, again, the defense is what bailed out the Rams in this game, much like the defense bailed us out in two of our 3 games on this one. So I think, but I think that we're much more talented than they are, and that we will put up a better fight than they did in Cleveland. Because A, it's going to be Monday night, and B, it's a home game.
Ooh, so hold on. You think that, right? I mean, I get stats wise, but let's forget about the stats for a second. You believe right now that the 49ers, as currently built, are more talented than the Rams as currently built?
Yes.
Ooh.
Well, our running backs are healthier. Our offensive line is better. Our defenses are pretty evenly matched, I would say, right now. But I think offensively, Kyle Shanahan, remember, McVay is a derivative of Kyle Shanahan, not the other way around.
Yes.
So Kyle Shanahan's play design is better than Sean McVay's. It's more dynamic, it's more complicated, and that's why you have the results that we have. That's why we score more points than they score. Some of it is obviously attributed to defensive scores in week 1, but overall, 41 points just on offense alone last week. 24 this week on offense. So, and that's with 2 picks. But, I think it's more dynamic. That's why I think like in Monday night when we play, I think Cleveland's going to obviously come to play. They played really good Sunday night, or what was it? Was it Sunday night or Thursday? They've had 2 national broadcasts already. Cleveland has. Very surprising for that franchise.
Well, the Niners had that when Jimmy G last year. It was scheduled, but then they took a bunch away.
I think because of all of the acquisitions they had this past offseason, I think they got a lot of hype built up on.
I think they have 5.
Naturally, they garnered some national press from that. So yeah, I think they're going to be playing in San Francisco, technically Santa Clara, but you guys know what I mean. They're playing in San Francisco. They got to travel to the West Coast, so I think that's going to be. I think we'll put up a better fight. It's not going to be a coming down to the very end where Baker Mayfield's got to make, try to make a fourth quarter heroic pass to win the game. It's not going to come down to that. I don't think so.
I think. Oh man, you do present a good.
It's kind of a pseudo preview.
Yeah, you do present a good argument about the Rams. I'm not sure. I will say this. I think their wide receiver core is better. Cooper Kupp is a beast.
Yes.
Cooks is a beast. Woods is a beast. I think
we have a bunch of young. We have a bunch of 1 year. We have a bunch of young guys that really haven't established themselves yet.
Yeah, our running back core is better. It's designed differently. Obviously, I think our quarterback's better. Even though it's funny. I was just thinking this, and I didn't get a chance to say it. I'm sitting here going, the Rams, haven't looked that good in these first 3 games, but they're also 3-0, and the 49ers arguably haven't looked at it's some pretty low moments. We're still 3-0, but there's some pretty low moments in these first 3 games. Like it's
Jared Goff has more volume. He has to, in order for him to get to be efficient, he has to. So it's kind of like you equate it to basketball, right? Like what's his name? James Harden is a volume shooter. So in order for him to get all of those crazy offensive statistics, he has to put out a really high, unusually high volume of offense out there, of shot attempts. The same thing when I'm comparing Jimmy Garoppolo to Jared Goff. These guys have almost identical stats for the season thus far, but Jared Goff has made like 20 more attempts. He's made a few more completions, but he's had to make a lot more attempts to get there. Jimmy G has made the exact same amount of passing yards this year so far, which is 739 compared to 738, but he's done it in fewer attempts, which means Jimmy G is more efficient. He's being more efficient with the football than Jared Goff is. And look at our running statistics. Todd Gurley has 200 yards, 203 yards. Malcolm Brown, 97. On our side, Matt Breida has 226 yards on almost the same amount of carries, has a better average at 5.5, and Raheem Mostert has 202 yards at a 5.9 average than Malcolm Brown. So the running game is way more balanced. Double the amount of productivity out of our second back. That's almost equal to our primary back. And then on the receiving side, again, the Rams have a clear advantage there. Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks both have, a lot more yardage than our best receiver, which is George Kittle again. but George Kittle has 0 scores. So George Kittle definitely needs to get involved in the red zone game.
Oh, yeah, especially for my fantasy team, more than anything.
Yeah, for fantasy.
Absolutely. So, Raymond, one last team I want to touch on very briefly. What happened to them Seahawks, man? What happened?
Ouch, Seahawks. Ouch. Suffered a big loss today. Because they're just, I don't want to say they're not a shell of themselves, but they're definitely, I think, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I mean, Russell Wilson played crazy in the fourth quarter and got them within, one possession and put up 20 points in the fourth quarter. But this team was scoreless for 2 quarters. And New Orleans was just running them, which is weird because New Orleans is terrible on the road.
Yeah.
Although they've been really good the last couple of years. I wouldn't say they've been way worse on the road before they got back to their playoff form. They were way worse. But they just don't play as well on the road. They've still been getting wins, but most of their losses the last 2 years have come on the road because they defend home very well. So for them to go on the road and again, they had to. It's almost like the injury to Drew Brees like kind of made them realize that they all have to step up on every phase.
They have to rally.
Yeah, exactly. So we saw them score defensively, we saw them score on special teams, and we saw them score on offense, with their go-to Alvin Kamara. So they needed all 3 phases of the game to win this game. It wasn't just let's let Drew Brees steamroll this team and then, we'll just do enough to keep them off the scoreboard. This time the whole team rallied, and that was pretty surprising. I didn't think that I thought New Orleans was going to get beat bad. I thought they were going to get beat real bad, but they didn't. They surprised me.
They did. And I mean, I think most people did. I assume that as well. I think most people kind of left them for dead until Breeze comes back. But
I'm pretty sure the Vegas odds had them, as huge underdogs.
Yeah, I mean, if they can hold on long enough, 1 or 2 more wins, they're still in it, and then Breeze comes back and they're good. So definitely Seattle shockingly dropping down 1, and now the 49ers and the Rams are locked, hopefully, in the battle's inevitable, but hopefully it is for first place in the NFC West. I'm very, very excited. So, what say you, GoldCast Nation? What do you think? How do you feel about this 3-0 start? Do you think the bye is coming at the right time? And how do we fare up against the Rams? Let us know in the comments. YouTube.com/thegoldcast. Comment right there, and let's discuss it. Let's talk about it. Raymond.
Yeah, because we have 2 weeks. we kind of have a while to go now. We're obviously going to post more between now and our next game, but we're going to spread some of it out a little bit.
Yes.
Before we get to that really awesome Monday night game, and that's on Monday, October 7th at 5:15 p.m. Pacific Daytime. Week 5, Cleveland coming to town.
Oh, man. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Yeah, the fact that it's Monday night, oh, man, it's going to be so exciting.
It's going to be so exciting. I cannot wait. I can't wait. This is a great time. This team is way ahead of schedule. I did not expect them to be where they are, and it's a really exciting time. Right? You didn't either. We didn't.
No. Well, I hoped,
Of course.
I hoped, but I certainly didn't expect, I just hoped. And so far that hope's come to fruition. Although I think because I was assuming Ben Roethlisberger and James Conner and Juju were going to be, all playing together at this time of the year, not a Ben Roethlisberger-less Steelers team. I think I had this as a loss. I think I had us at 2-1 at this point. But, I'm happy to be wrong on that one with a 3-0.
I think I had us at 1-2. I think, right?
Something like that. We'll have to look at the sheet.
Yeah, let's look at the sheet, but I believe that's where I had us. Either way, 3-0 is fantastic. It's awesome. I believe they said today the last time the 49ers were 3-0 was 1999, I believe, was the last time.
I think they said 98.
Oh, 98?
Yeah, which is Steve Mariucci's year with Steve Young, where they went. That was the year of the catch 3.
No, 2.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Catch 3 is Alex Smith.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the catch 2.
Anyways, 3-0, baby. Go Niners. Awesome win. Awesome. Raymond, any final thoughts.
I hope that Akella Witherspoon's injury is something that can be mended with the bye. As far as that isolated injury is concerned, the bye comes at a very opportune time.
There you go. And for me, as I said before, I think to yes, Andrew, I think this is a great time for the bye, and I'm really excited and I'm really happy, and it feels good to be 3-0. It's a great feeling.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So 49er faithful, GoldCast Nation, bask in it. Enjoy this 3-0. It's a great feeling, regardless. A win is a win any given Sunday. We are here. We are in the mix. It is on. The team we were promised when they signed Shanahan and Lynch has arrived. Let's go. So concludes another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis first, baby.
Boom. We'll see you next time. Same GoldCast time, same GoldCast channel.
This is the GoldCast.